Hey, what's going on everybody? It's IM Kostya, and today I'll be starting a new series of videos designed to give you an ultimate guide to Puzzle Rush. Now, Puzzle Rush is universally considered to be pretty fun, but there's an ongoing debate over whether it's actually good for your chess. You can definitely make an argument that it's good for your blitz chess, but when it comes to classical, it does seem like Puzzle Rush may encourage some bad habits, like guessing and moving too quickly, and things that we'll definitely get into. My overall take on this is that most players can stand to drill and improve their simple tactics, and so if they can focus on building and maintaining good training habits while they drill Puzzle Rush, then it's one of the best ways of building a solid tactical foundation, simply for the sheer quantity of puzzles you have access to with unlimited Puzzle Rush. A lot of people would say that you may get more benefit out of solving harder problems, but to me it's essentially training two different things. I would agree if you want to deepen your calculation skill, it's better to work on more challenging problems that take you time and energy to solve. But if you're looking to develop your simple tactical vision and pattern recognition, then I truly believe Puzzle Rush is one of the best tools out there for that, but only if you use it in a disciplined way. So the main takeaway here is Puzzle Rush can be extremely useful, but only if you use it like the training tool that it can be, and not like an arcade game where you're just trying to set your high score every time you play. So the purpose of this guide is to start from the ground up and not only give you my best tips and advice for improving your score in Puzzle Rush, but also to show how to use Puzzle Rush in the most effective way to maximize your chess improvement. Because after all, I think that's what most people watching this video and doing Puzzle Rush are going to be focused on. So this first video is going to start off with the absolute fundamentals. And while I'm far from being one of the best or fastest puzzle solvers in the world, I do think I can give you guys some solid pointers. So let's get into it. And I want to start by talking about what I believe are the most important skills that determine your overall strength in Puzzle Rush. And those are going to be your board awareness, your pattern recognition, and finally your calculation/decision-making ability. Now, for the first 20 problems or so in a run, most strong players are typically relying on their quick board awareness and pattern recognition to solve the problems. Board awareness means being able to quickly process what's going on in a fresh position. That includes counting material, seeing which enemy king is in danger, and for stronger players, identifying what's hanging in the position, what captures and checks are currently available, and so on. The faster you're able to recognize and process what's actually happening in the position, the faster you'll be able to figure out what you're supposed to be looking for and be that much closer to getting to the solution. I should note that it's often not necessary to do the entire checklist above if your pattern recognition is quite developed, as you don't need to know what's going on the queen side if your brain can automatically calculate a maiden 2 or 3 on the king side. Which brings us to the second fundamental skill or aspect when it comes to Puzzle Rush, pattern recognition, which refers to the number of tactical patterns your brain has learned and stored over your time playing chess. Pattern recognition is one of the most important tools in a chess player's arsenal, as this is what allows a human brain to quickly identify the solution to similar problems that it's seen before. One way or another, developing a solid tactical foundation, in my opinion, requires a player to solve thousands and thousands of puzzles before they're able to develop any kind of real tactical skill. Now, the majority of players watching this likely already have quite a few patterns stored that they would easily recognize, such as simple back rank mates, knight forks, mother mate, and so on. These are all the simple tactics that many tournament players are already familiar with. Well, as you spend more time solving puzzles and absorbing new patterns, you'll slowly build up your puzzle bank of stored ideas, and eventually you'll be able to lean on your pattern recognition a lot more. Now, the good news is that I believe it's actually pretty straightforward to work on and build up your pattern recognition. As long as you work and solve consistently, let's say 45 minutes to an hour every day for 4 to 6 weeks, over time you're going to be seeing hundreds and thousands of problems. And as you see more and more patterns, especially patterns repeating themselves and even the same exact problems again and again, your brain is going to pick up on a lot of new patterns and possibly store those for future solving. So we can talk a lot more about pattern recognition, and we might in future videos, but again, the main thing to remember is that in order to significantly build up your pattern recognition, it takes consistent practice over weeks, if not months at a time. So before you get all excited and start putting in your hours, you're not necessarily going to see huge improvement after just a couple of days of grinding Puzzle Rush. But if you stay consistent, do an hour a day for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and so on, then eventually you'll start seeing some real improvement, not just in your board vision and your speed, but also in the number of puzzles you're able to solve thanks to your newly developed pattern recognition. Now, at a certain point, usually around puzzle 20, if not much earlier, you won't be able to rely on your pattern bank or simple board awareness to solve the problem. This is where, as a chess player, you need to rely on your actual calculation and decision-making skill and start looking for possible moves and actually trying to search for the solution. This, I would say, is the third skill that is needed for Puzzle Rush, but I think most people would probably agree that Puzzle Rush is not the best way to train your deeper calculation skill. It's a great way to test your wits and how quick you are to calculate lines in an unknown position, but if you want to actually develop your ability to calculate deeper and choose between several tempting moves and be able to visualize and store multiple variations in your head, I would encourage you to spend time either on Chess.com's regular tactics trainer, which gives problems appropriate for your level, or by going through one of the many good books out there that have a collection of chess tactics or combinations. Again, if you want to deepen how far and accurately you can calculate, you should be seeking out difficult problems that force you to visualize multiple lines and spend anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20 minutes calculating them. But if you feel like you just need to drill some tactics and work on your patterns and strengthen your ability to recognize typical forks, deflections, decoys, and so on, then I think Puzzle Rush or some kind of similar alternative is one of the best ways to get the quantity of puzzles that you need in order to really build up your pattern recognition. Now, obviously, people watching this are going to be at varying levels, so now let me move on and give you guys some more universal tips on how to get the most out of your Puzzle Rush runs. Number 1, try not to guess. Puzzle Rush is not about going quickly to set your high score each time. That might be fun, but if you work hard, you're going to set many new peaks anyway, and that shouldn't be the point of every individual run. Your goal for every run that you do should be to simply use good solving habits, and that means not inputting moves unless you're quite sure that you have the right answer. It's hard to be good about this. We all have the urge and impulse to guess and try to go quickly, but it's important to, as much as you can, try to be mindful when you're solving. Your brain can tell a difference between a solution that you understand and a move that you're just playing because it looks correct. So once we get to the advanced section of this guide, we might discuss intuition and how you can try to go quickly and kind of guesstimate in some positions. But for now, I would urge you guys to focus on accuracy rather than guessing. You should put your full effort into solving the problems, minimize any distractions while you're solving. That means not checking tabs or checking your phone or really having anything else going on. And whether you do the 3-minute or the 5-minute, the goal should be to finish the run without striking out. So that means don't guess. To elaborate a bit more on what I mean by don't guess, well, every puzzle in Puzzle Rush has exactly one solution. So you need to understand why your solution is the best above all else. Is it the only move that mates the enemy king, the only move that wins material, the only move that keeps the game equal when everything else loses? You need to have some kind of narrative in mind for why your move is correct above all else. There are many cases where you might have two moves that look equally good, and it seems like they both lead to checkmate or they both lead to the win of the queen. Well, the way Puzzle Rush is designed, one of those solutions is actually not going to work. And if you just choose randomly, then your chances are basically 50-50. But if you take a second to try and figure out why one might be more accurate than the other, then you're much more likely to actually get the problem right and have some personal growth in the process. Number 2, if you get one wrong, take a quick pause, even if it's just for a microsecond. This is a small tip, but I think it can help, as I've noticed myself, as well as others and my students, often getting tilted after making their first mistake in the run and immediately getting the next one wrong as well, even though it might not have been that hard. If you find this happening to you, it might be that you get tilted when you make a mistake, and it might be useful to just take a very quick second to take a quick breath and collect yourself after a mistake and try to finish your run with the same effective training habits than you've been using before. It's important to be able to come back from your mistakes, not just in Puzzle Rush, but in chess as well. You are going to mess up during your games, but your position will still be holdable or perhaps even good. And if you're not able to control your emotions and try to remain objective in those moments, rather than lashing out or reacting poorly to what's just happened, then you're not going to be able to be in control of what's going on in the game, and it's likely going to lead to further mistakes. As my co-sensei, Grandmaster Jesse Cry, likes to say, mistakes come in pairs, but they don't have to. So if you make a mistake in a run, it's okay. It doesn't mean you have to quit. It doesn't mean you have to sacrifice the whole run. Just take a second to collect yourself and try to continue solving effectively for the rest. One thing I like to do is to aim for about 30 correct problems in 3 minutes. It's not my peak, but it's a pretty decent score for me. And so even if I get 1 or 2 wrong early on, as long as I can hit 30, I can feel like maybe I still salvage the run, and it can feel like a small victory, which keeps me positive and upbeat and probably getting more overall out of my training. Number 3, review the problems you get wrong. I know everyone says they do this, but I also know from experience that even I don't always do this, and I'm really dedicated. So I know that even if I don't always review the problems that I got wrong after I finish a run of Puzzle Rush, then I certainly know that you guys are probably not that great about that either. So look, the main issue with not reviewing your missed problems is not just that you miss out on learning a new pattern or that you'll be seeing the same problem in the future. It's more that the mindset a player is in when they mindlessly go from one puzzle run to another is not one that's really conducive to growth. So if you find yourself getting tilted after a run and getting frustrated and just wanting to go again and again and quitting if you get one wrong and getting really tilted much like you would after a bad bullet streak, then I would encourage you to actually stop at that moment and maybe take a couple minutes break, take a breather, remind yourself why you're doing this, why you're training, why you're enjoying the game, and continue training with an intention to not worry so much about the intermittent results. Because you have to remember, the goal is long-term improvement here, not short-term burst gain. This video and this series is not meant to have you set your high score in the next 30 minutes, but rather give you a long-term plan for how you can work on your chess using Puzzle Rush and eventually see significant progress. So after a run, take a minute to review the problems you missed. Try to learn from what was the solution, try to understand whether this is a pattern that you've seen before or if it's something that's new for you, and really try to ingrain the pattern for the future, especially if it's a solution or a type of tactic that you haven't seen before. It can be really beneficial to play through it a couple of times and to even go back to the start of the problem and try to visualize the solution yourself just to see what it would feel like to solve the problem on your own. Well guys, that's going to wrap it up for the first video in this series here. To sum up all of the tips and advice I've given you today, I would say, number 1, take your time during the runs to make sure that you're not guessing and that you understand the solution you're inputting. Don't panic, review the problems you get wrong, and try to train consistently for 4 to 6 weeks before judging yourself or judging the results. And I really cannot stress the importance of training consistently enough. It's much better to train an hour a day for 5 days than to grind 5 hours on the weekend. Your brain needs time to recharge and reflect and store all of the new patterns you're going to be learning, and that's why it's good to train a little bit every day rather than cramming it all in on one day on the weekend. In future videos, I'll be discussing some of the typical tactical patterns that every player should know, as well as some of the typical thinking techniques that allow strong players to make very, very quick decisions that seem 100% intuitive, but are actually quite accurate. In the meantime, I'd love to know your questions on Puzzle Rush. What do you want to know? Where are your sticking points? What do you need help with, or what are you confused on? Leave your questions in the comment section below on this video, and I'll pick out the best or most useful ones and answer them in a future video in this series. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really does help us out a lot. This has been IM Kostya with the Ultimate Puzzle Rush Guide. Take care, and until next time.